In the latest on the response to the coronavirus, officials in St. John Parish are moving forward with the governor's reopening guidelines. Today, the parish president addressed some of the precautions they're suggesting, such as wearing masks.
What we're doing, we're not mandating that every person wear a mask, but I'm saying that you should have a mask on. And what we're asking our businesses to do is to also join us, because they can also ask individuals entering their businesses as well to put masks on. We know that everything's not 100%. Washing your hands, mask, social distancing, it's all the tools in the toolbox to keep us safe.
Officials in St. Charles Parish are opening a new mobile testing site tomorrow with help from Access Health Louisiana and the National Guard. The first site will be at the Kelowna Community Center. It's open from 9 to 11 o'clock Friday morning. Officials say increased testing is a key component to being able to reopen businesses safely. Drive-through testing will continue at Hahnville High School. That's Monday through Friday from 8 to noon. Taking a look at the latest statewide numbers on the coronavirus, there's a large increase in the case count with more than 800 new cases. The governor says that's due to more labs reporting their results for the first time. He says some of the cases reported for the first time are actually for tests taken as early as March. The total number of deaths has increased to 2,351, and that number is in line with the numbers from the past few days. Of the nearly 1,200 patients currently hospitalized with COVID-19, 140 of them are on ventilators right now. The U.S. economy is starting to ramp up after a near standstill, but workers continue to lose their jobs. Nancy Chen reports.
Select businesses are open again in some states, and that means a return to work for many people who were let go during the shutdown, including stylist Melissa Woodkey.
It's very exciting. Everybody's excited to be back at work.
But even as some are back on the job, others are losing them. Uber just let go of 3,700 employees, and they are not alone. The Labor Department says nearly 3 million Americans applied for unemployment benefits last week. That's higher than experts predicted and means roughly 36 million people have lost work since the coronavirus started forcing businesses to shut down. Among those let go, hotel workers William Gonzalez and his wife Sonia Batiste, seen here with their son.
One of the biggest concerns besides the money to pay rent and bills is that the fact that we are not having any health insurance.
A new report from the National Bureau of Economic Research estimates 42% of recent layoffs will become permanent. And for people who have returned to work, job security is a major concern if customers aren't willing to go out and spend money.
Whereby we see businesses having to lay off people for a second time.
Experts say the next few months will likely determine whether many businesses survive and if people who have jobs keep them. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
Here in Louisiana, the state Senate has approved a proposal to legalize sports betting. The measure would allow voters in each parish to approve their own rules. The House will now debate the measure. Even if it is approved, more legislation will be needed to regulate and tax the games.